If you're watching this on YouTube, we're currently live on Twitch.
Come check us out Wednesday nights at 7.
What's the URL?
They don't need to know that.
That's staying in.
All right, everybody, thank you for joining us for episode 6 of the Point Gremlin podcast. I'm Delirium. Joined with me today is my co-host, Jonas the Red. And today we have some really just one topic to talk about, and that's we're going to talk about a little bit of some marketing stuff as well as kind of our own ideal eye combat. So what's my ideal eye combat? What's James's ideal eye combat? And we're gonna kind of bounce off each other a little bit and figure out whose vision of the place of the sport is better.
It's better. These stakes. You know, when before we started the cast, I was trying to get Alex to have like a really big energy thing, and I think we got the most energy out of Alex as we could possibly ever get.
Ah!
Cool, good start. So back when I first started working in iCombat in like 2015, 16-ish, I had this. That was around the time when tournaments were highly recorded, and recently had the tournament, right? So it's all fresh in our mind as much as it can be. But I'm sure you guys have seen the YouTube video of like the 2016 or the 2015 Madison tournament, where they had all these crazy cameras all over the place, and like casting had its own separate camera, and there's bigger spotlight on some of the players. They would get like a live interview on stream there and pulled aside by Alyssa, I think her name was at the time, and it really gave like a big spotlight to the players. Everyone had like their own superpower type of thing. That's kind of boiling it down, but we can go more in detail, right?
Yeah, and so I think the point is just kind of going back to how the not how the podcast was run, but how the stream was set up for the tournament this last year. It kind of it was kind of a bumpy ride. Obviously, like we did test it and everything beforehand, but by the time that we figured out everything was not really working all too good, we were like way too invested into the middle of the tournament. We weren't gonna go back and try and fix any sort of footage recording, so we just kind of had a botched Twitch setup for the tournament this last year. So I guess what could we really have done to have made it a better experience this last year for the tournament footage?
Right. So there's a couple budget restraints we had for that one. If I had like an X amount of budget to work with, I can probably make that thing look really good. My dream would be more cameras pointing at faces generally. So the problem is that poor computer just doesn't have like the power to hold things up. If I had a camera pointing at me and Prowler's face, some extra cameras on the field, like, I don't know, give one to the team leaders of the tournament. So Gilly, Jeremy, Leanne, just walking around with the camera and have it live feed to the stream. That'd be awesome. It doesn't even have to be live. I can record it. I can use the footage afterwards for a cool video afterwards. And then I would also want either Ethan or Scumbag Lenny, or I think her name's Emo Pancake, with a camera in the armory at all times, ready to grab any reactions from players that are winning, or some big loss moments, some heavy moments, do some interviews there. But instead, I had players, whoever was behind me up on the observation deck, pull over. And if I had a camera up there with some nice light and pulled them between us and did interviews up there, that'd be awesome. Really, my dream would be to give more of a spotlight to the individual players, because really they all have their own little superpower that they have on the field, and highlighting that in their own individual way can give it some more spotlight just for that tournament.
Yeah, and I will say I think that no matter who is casting, they cannot be up on that balcony. I was rewatching the footage that you posted just this last week of all the tournament archive of the little bit that we did get, and you and Prowler are not hearable over everybody in the background, especially like Woodland and some other people that were getting pretty loud, like Birdie.
Yep.
I could not hear you guys over them at all.
Yeah, I would like more time to mess with that microphone and mess with the general sound. And maybe in the future, I think we are going to get our own, but we're going to borrow a room for next year's tournament. I'd also like some time to practice with it. Maybe do some leagues. If we do that, we could live stream the leagues. I don't even have to get paid for that, dude. That sounds like fun to do. Anything to make. Really, I want the online presence for this sport to be bigger, because I know this sport is awesome. It's nothing like anything else. It could be absolutely huge if we just give it the right push online. And I think of all the other laser tag places, I think we're just doing the most online presence that I've seen. I'm always looking for other places. Like recently, I found Ben Big Mac's old YouTube videos, and I was like, "Wow, there's stuff here from Chicago. I can finally see that."
Yeah, I think we're going to talk about that a lot later in the cast today too, about just like how we would see the sport in an ideal way. But as far as like the tournament footage goes, I think something that we should really work on is, like you said, getting like better camera work. I know that it was like very lightly tested, but they, like Jeremy and Scumbag Lenny, were talking about using Scumbag Lenny's drone for a little while to get some footage, which actually probably would have been really cool if the drone was just like making circles around the top of Market, so you could see everything that's going on in the ghetto alley, as well as like Top Market and the street area. I think you'd be able to see quite a lot from there.
Oh yeah, it doesn't even have to. It could just be a new angle that's unique, just because it's up in the air. That'd be super cool.
Yeah, and like you said, I think it'd be super fun to be the person with the camera out on the field. So like having an actual designated like camera guy going out there trying to get the best footage that they can manage during those missions.
The problem with that would be, well, the team leaders are going to be in the way sometimes, right? So they would have to be the ones with the camera. But imagine you're an extra person that's just a camera guy, and you get in the way of a shot or something like that. That'd be terrible. Which I think definitely happened in the Waukesha iCombat 2016 tournament. I think there's a guy on top of Market with like a big camera, just like sitting there on top of Market, and he's just like panning back and forth, and he's generally in like a highlight spot where you kind of throw bullets down. So you had to work around him as well, which sucks, but he added a lot of awesome footage to it.
Yeah, and I think that's actually something that could have been rehearsed in the sessions beforehand. So like the week before or 2 weeks before, we could have had basically a guy on the field trying to, like whoever would be our designated camera guy, like practicing to get footage out on the field without disturbing the play as much as possible, kind of figuring out where to get the good shots, as well as how to avoid getting in people's way. That's something that I think could be worked around for sure.
You could be like if they're okay with it, be on top of the embassy awnings, or on top of crates, or generally on top of props that are rather stable, so you don't fall and neck yourself. I think it'd be a rather good play. You just got to think of where people are going to stand, where people are going to shoot, what we're going to do. Just don't stand in the middle of the street, man. It's just that easy.
Yeah, absolutely. I find myself in a position where I would like really, really enjoy being the person who's doing the commentation, being the person who has the camera, but at the same time, I can't not play, you know?
Yeah, I think you're too big of a player not to be in part of this tournament. Like, you were my number one pick to have with me casting, but man, you were a captain and you had a good chance, and you took third. So I there's no, unless you like break your legs next year, then you can come on help me.
I know. The year before, every single year so far for the tournament, the last 2 years, I've been like super debating, like, oh, do I play? I really want to play, but I really should play, but I also really want to do this casting or do something else to help out around. That could be kind of a cool addition, but I'm stuck as I must play. It's a must for me.
Yeah, unfortunately, you're just too big of a player. Delirium is too big of a name for it. Cool.
All right. I think that kind of covers the whole tournament footage topic that we kind of wanted to go on a quick rant about. Moving on, I think we're going to kind of talk about more of how we would ideally see iCombat. So what is my vision for iCombat as a sport and as a business compared to your vision of iCombat as a sport and as a business? So I think we're going to kind of reach a sort of common ground as far as the sport aspect of it goes, with maybe a few differences, but I think the business is the wrong word, but the day-to-day how we run our sessions for publics, I think is going to kind of change.
Okay, I see what you're saying. So, avoiding tournament stuff, there's a couple of things I'd want to do. I don't want to kick them out, but little kids I don't want in sessions at all. There's got to be a hard limit to like a certain age or a certain height that they can be in their own sessions for and not be a part of the bigger ones. And I think it also should absolutely be divided by skill gap in a certain way. I think we're going to disagree a little bit on that one. But generally, more divisions between the players, but that would require more players in general, which doesn't work too well as a business to divide. Like, you only people in this certain skill gap can play at these certain times, it feels like. Ugh. But given this is the perfect world we're talking about, the dream society of high combat. That's what we want.
Yeah, and so to me, the sport has always just been about getting better. I've never really cared about like where I stand on the leaderboards or anything like that. I've never, in fact, most of the time when I finish a session, I don't even look at the leaderboard anymore. It's just all about, am I doing better personally? Am I moving around the field better? And I'm certainly not at a wall. I feel like it's so hard to get at a wall with this sport, but I'm at the point where I would be moving so much faster and doing so much better if there weren't new players on the field. If I was purely in a competitive spirit game where the only thing that I had to focus on was outplaying the enemy team and doing my best on that field, then I think I would enjoy the sport a lot more than I have been.
Just imagine the universe where you have it. Like it doesn't even necessarily have to be a 5-on-5. It could be an 8-on-8, 2v2, whatever it is. And you have like just like a crazy awesome plan for whatever game mode it is, and you execute it super well, and things line up super well. And I'm always a huge fan of using teamwork and covering angles together with your team. I don't even have to be the one to get the kill. As long as I was a part of a reason that we're funneling people into like a certain way and we're getting a ton of kills that way, or being super effective in any particular game mode because of our awesome teamwork, that's huge. And it's much easier to pull it off with everyone that knows what they're doing. If you're trying to explain to new players how to hurdle, like hurdling cats, guys, please just go over to the market. It's right there. It's right there. You can see it from here. Just walk up and ding, and that game starts, and they walk into the ghetto. They walk into the mansion. It's so hard to get them to do what we want to do. But everyone playing with so many regulars right now that all know what they're doing, you start to see a little glimpses of it. You start to see that players like, okay, I know what to do. We can go do this, XYZ. We'll have like 4 or 5 regulars on a particular team, and they're all kind of talking about right at the beginning, I'm going to go this. Where are you going? I'm going to do this. But that plan kind of dissolves pretty much within the first 1 or 2 minutes, unless you have a backup plan with it and you do more callouts with it. If we can develop that meta of more team play, then I think the sport would just be all the better for it. If you notice that plan just kind of like dissolves like right away.
Oh, absolutely. As soon as one player dies and they're like, oh, I don't really want to go back there, or like I want to do something else, it's just they're gone, and then the next person dies, and your group is down from 4 to 2 or 3 to 1, and it all goes away from there.
Yeah, everyone has their own little plan to try and get as much points, kills, rings, tubes, any particular game mode, but it's all individual. The sport is weirdly individual right now, meta-wise. There's not a whole lot of talking and yelling divided between like certain game modes. You'll see it in SWAT, in Rush, in Domination, in Whack-A-Mole, but you won't see it in darn near any other game mode. Imagine like you're trying to have some sort of plan for Sniper. The biggest plan I've seen is, all right, everybody run down street at the beginning. We're gonna go on auto and kill them all. Like, really, that's your plan? That's what we're going off to here? Why don't we get set up in like particular spots?
And even, to be honest with you, even game modes like Rush and UBL and other games that like, where even the tournament ones we play in a public session, I don't see myself using a lot of strategy with people. I will maybe communicate with like 1 or 2 choice regulars that I kind of trust to communicate with, but like the rest of that 15-person team is kind of on their own. I'm just waiting for them to shoot the tube at that point. I will shoot it myself, and then I'll move on to how I know I should run the game and proceed from there.
Yeah. So I don't really necessarily blame you guys for not communicating in team, working up team play. There's a bunch of reasons why people don't talk while they're playing. Right when I think off the bat is if I want to do a call out to something, I'm revealing my position to everyone on the field where I am, because everyone knows each other really, really well. I know what Vito sounds like. I know what Ben Big Mac sounds like. I know what Chief sounds like. I can tell if they do a call out where exactly they're going to be that exact moment, the second they speak. And so you're only left with a few chances you can really do any call out. And that's like right when you respawn, and you can't talk while you're dead. But if you were to be able to, and you're already dead, and you can do all the call outs you want, but you can't. That would be I don't blame you guys for not doing it. But if there were like a comm system, everyone had their own little radio.
I'm actually
going
going
to talk like that way.
I'm going to take that on a small tangent. Whenever you like reveal where you are to someone else, so whenever like someone dies nearby you or something happens to give away your position, that can actually be a really big deal to kill a certain regular. So say I'm upstairs and I make a call out and I'm playing against Zach. Zach's on the other team and he hears me make a call out. He knows I'm in the top left of market. If I move as soon as I make that call out, I'm putting him in like a really, really unfavorable 50-50 because there's probably generally I'd say 4 different locations I could be upstairs. That if he's not already on the stairs and he's just running up, I have plenty of time to move anywhere else and kind of catch him off guard. I think the odds are in my favor then to kill him before he would kill me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you put yourself at massive risk just speaking. I don't think anyone would want to do that, especially people that want to get as many kills as possible. Why would you reveal your position for free? You could be saving a teammate like once, but now everyone knows where you are.
I'm
you can
saying
move immediately.
I'm saying that there is an advantage to giving away your position.
There's a very decent chance you're just going to be on top of marketplace still.
Well, right, but
you can get off.
Right, but there's so many places I can be on top of marketplace, so I can move around. Say you know where I was when I said something. I can move around and be in a different position to anticipate you coming up the stairs to try and kill me. I can put myself in a place to favorably win that gunfight.
Yeah. So, and we just don't see that much. We don't see thinking like that a lot yet. The more we make communication in these public sessions more just happen more often, we're going to see it develop and see how good it gets. Like imagine how Juggernaut was played, for example, day one. It's probably really, really whack. There was maybe like the Juggernaut side always won, for example. As long as we can develop a meta for it or develop some different ways of doing it, everyone more doing it more and more and more, it's going to change. It's going to get more interesting as we play.
And I think that's something that's, to be honest with you, kind of very disappointing about the sport. I think we have a lot of very unique regulars that are very unique in personality at the very least, but play style wise, I feel like the vast majority of the regulars we have, the new players we have, are all so similar. I don't see a lot of people doing anything that's super unique that would kind of help further develop a meta like that. I think anything we have is just going to be kind of mundane. Everybody just kind of piles in and does the same thing as everybody else. No one's doing anything really interesting.
So a part of me disagrees with you there, because I was just thinking about like what everyone's like super ability is or what makes that unique person unique. And there's a couple people that you can think of that have kind of broken the box of copying everybody else and made their own thing. I was thinking like, well, for example, you're a really clever person and you can come up with a plan pretty well that's pretty solid. Zach, for example, has really awesome fundamentals and can outgunfight anyone there. Woodland, for example, has incredible charisma and can herd a million little cats in doing whatever he wants. Everyone, like, there's a couple regulars that could do some things really, really well, but a lot of these regulars are still generally new, given as high rank as they are. They haven't been playing for nearly as long as some of the older ones. And so they haven't had the chance to develop their own stuff yet. But there are some, and I think more than you might think, that have their own special little ability that they don't know what to do yet. Speed, accuracy, kill death ratio, killing new players, getting on top of places, knowing a particular area pretty well. Skulltaker comes to mind as well. He knows the ghetto pretty well.
That's something we talked about on a cast a little while ago, but I still think I've never. Perhaps it's just because I've played so long and nothing's really super new or super unique to me, but it's so rare for me to see something I've never seen before. Like just this last weekend, I actually saw something I've never seen before, which was that domestic threat where it ended up being a terrible backpack spot. I think you were playing in the session where they put the backpack on the windowsill right next to the enemy team spawn. So it was like upstairs, just immediately on that windowsill, like hanging off the market. You couldn't see it if you were in the market, but if you were anywhere outside the market, you saw it immediately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was playing that one on the defending team. I didn't know where it was, because my GoPro died, and I wanted to go swap out the battery for it. And I come back, and I'm like, where's the backpack? Where'd you guys put it? And then no one really tell me until Shay kind of mentioned it's on top of market in this basket thing. What basket are you speaking of? And I couldn't figure out until Jake grabbed the backpack, or Quicks grabbed the backpack and ran away with it within like the first minute. It was like a 90-second game mode. It was like, whoa, new spot? I think it's totally illegal. But man, that was cool. Something different.
I don't know if it's illegal. I personally wouldn't consider it illegal because I think it's terrible, but...
I mean, you have to be inside the market to get that thing unless you're IG-72.
Yeah, unless you are 7 feet tall. I would really like to see more stuff like that where it's just so very unique in the game. I've played so many sessions. The things that I want to play are unique. I want to play Sunday night sessions when we're playing just ridiculous game modes. 13-tube whack-a-mole. God, I want to play 13-tube whack-a-mole.
Just really goofy stuff that it could just be like a terrible, like not balanced at all game mode. But you're in that spot where like, please, just anything different. Dude, can we put the backpack somewhere else? We talked about this last week, like special, weird, little goofy game modes that no one's really tried yet. But man, they're funny.
Yes, I think my ideal iCombat would have more of that. More unique, more variety to it. And I want it to be competitive. I want it to be very fresh, and I want the other players to continually keep it fresh. Because I think like we as the business of iCombat supply the game modes, we supply the equipment, and to a point the game modes and the equipment can only go so far. We can make new game modes and stuff like that to keep things spiced up, and we can change like backpack locations to keep things fresh, but ultimately I think it's the new player, or not the new players, but the regulars and the meta that they develop that leads us to a fresh, healthy game state.
Yeah, I was thinking about this too. Like, imagine if you were to start your brand new iCombat, but you spent all this time playing at Madison or Waukesha or Chicago, and you make your own iCombat. How would you design the field? And would your current understanding of how the game played at Waukesha affect your design choice for this new place? We created this meta from our current regulars, and they made the game themselves. We just gave them the field, some game modes, and guns, and I guess vests and headbands. But they made the game what it is, which is why I want to see just a huge spotlight making these players famous outside of the game, inside the game, whatever. The name Specs is just huge for someone because he does XYZ, looks like this, whatever. That's the stuff I want to see. In
any big sport, there's always a storyline to the players. So there's the Tom Brady's, there's all those big name players that have a story behind them. So people will like or dislike them based off of how they affect the game. Tom Brady wins all the time, so people don't like him because he wins all the time. But still, you watch him play because he's the best that there is.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of have that storyline, but it's all. I think it doesn't.
It's all like in this little
encompass.
shack. I
Yeah.
think no one really knows about it until you start to get into it. So there's really like only 100, 150 people that kind of know the story is like a big word to put on it. Like the meta, the story, the characters that iCombat have, and I want to make that big. I want to show that off. It's so interesting. Like you think that so like imagine you're watching some show and like these big characters are making these big moves with these big superpowers and stuff. Given this is real life and exactly what we can do, these characters, these regulars, they have their own little things they do on a smaller scale, but it makes it really different when they're playing on the field. It's not like they have some crazy superpower where they can stare at you and delete your brain. They just play the market incredibly, incredibly well, and making it whenever you walk into the market, you're instantly deleted, and it just feels different. It gives them their own little shine, and I want to show off.
I feel like we're missing an interaction piece for playing on the field. I think there's certain players that interact with each other a lot more than others, and I'm talking like just little trash talk like Woodland. Playing like Woodland. Like don't get me wrong, there's plenty of sessions where I play with Woodland, I'm like, oh god, I want him to shut up. And sometimes I play with Woodland, I'm like, man, I'm having a good time. Because it's fun to yell at him. But I think there needs to be more. I think in an ideal world there should be more of that. I think
more villains. There's like just one.
More villains, more interaction, animosity between the players. There's so many people that step out onto the field and play their session and leave, which is totally fine. I get it. A lot of people use it just for a quick exercise. A lot of people do it just because they like the sport. There should be more interaction from player to player, though, take me and Zach, we both occupy the same places on the field pretty often. We'll both be trying to fight for upstairs and stuff like that. We should be interacting more when we're doing so, kind of developing this animosity between players that make the sessions matter more.
I do kind of like how nice is everyone together, but I do agree with you that developing some more characters could develop the sport in its own way. I want to do some more yelling and talking to people. I think that's a really good idea.
Yeah, I think the ideal setting for my iCombat would be something that ever changes based off of all of the regulars. Something that is small, highly competitive, but ultimately boils down to how the players make it. It is what the players make it.
Yeah. So I think that's a good cover up for that. So now I want to move on to the next step here. What do you think about this one? In general, are these new players good for the game?
Absolutely not.
They're not. I would say they absolutely are. Why do you say no?
It's like I was saying earlier, whenever you step onto the field, they are the thing that makes it so the game doesn't develop. The game boils down to take just any Saturday session. It's a full session with probably 6 regulars in it, 3-on-3, with 12 new players on each side. That's what our average session is on a Saturday. The game boils down so much to those new players. There is really nothing a regular can do to make or break that game. There's no big plays to be made. It's all about which new players are a little bit better than the other group, and it's just clutters everything.
It is kind of.
It clutters everything. It makes it hard to move around. I personally, when I play, I just get mad. They're in my way. They're terrible. I don't feel good killing them. There's nothing to be enjoyed about their presence on the field.
there's actually a pretty unique perspective we have as staff. I'm sure you've seen a private session or two where there's just one. So they're all incredibly terrible, given it's their first time, right? I don't want to shit on them too hard for being terrible, but they're all really, really bad. But there's one person on the camo team that just happens to have played there once or twice before. And they made that session just by themselves because no one else in the field knows anything what they're doing. Like they won that session 8 rounds in a row. They won every single game mode to demolish it for the other team, but they're just doing like the most like barely fundamental things possible. And that it's just so disappointing to see when these a session like that happen. I don't really remember what my point was here. I think it was going to be that these new players, they managed to get good at all. Oh, no, it isn't. No, whatever. I've seen a lot of these private sessions that they get where one player on the enemy team managed to demolish the whole thing. But imagine if I was in that session, I could just like, really, dude, you're being so arrogant about just you being like 1 or 2 steps ahead. There's so many more steps you could be taking. And there's just 40 of them on the field right now. Well, it's given there's like 8 on each team, right, depending on the size of the session.
Private parties are very, very interesting meta because I always look at them and I think to myself, are they having more fun than me? Because they are. Without a doubt, they're having more fun than me. When a group of new players is playing against another group of new players, they're having so much more fun than me trying to take it as a competitive sport, which is what it is. I can't have fun in ignorance forever. But so when looking at it kind of as a very watered down version of how regulars perceive the game. So have that player that has played 2 or 3 times in the private party against everybody else that hasn't played before. That is our very watered down regular. They're having the time of their life, but I think they are taking the entirety of the session down as far as morale. So getting rid of the skill gap and putting everybody at the same power level makes the game so much more enjoyable for the entirety. If everybody is about as good as everybody else, it makes it matter more what you do on the field.
Yeah, I think that would be the perfect world if we can divide the sessions into skill gaps. We can't. We can't for a business reason. We want to try and get as many sessions going as possible. We want to try and get as many players in the field as possible. We're just trying to make money, right? And those new players, they give us a lot of the money to make the business run, and we can't make the business run. You guys don't get to have your play. What sucks about some of these sessions that it does come down to how can the regulars kill the new players more and more than the other team does and rallying them around. But they're the reason that the game develops in the first place because they give us the money to keep doing it. If we didn't have them, we couldn't. I don't think we could survive just off of regulars. I don't think it's enough. I think we do need the new players too.
I think this kind of boils down to the necessity of leagues. I think it's so important to have new players as far as a business standpoint, but in order for the game to develop and be more enjoyable, I think it's important to get rid of them.
We did try leagues, sort of, recently. Sort of. We advertised it a little bit on Barracks. There wasn't like a Facebook post. There wasn't a video. There wasn't talking about it there. Well, I guess there's a little bit. And I think 3 people signed up for it, right?
I think it was 3, including me.
Imagine if we can get a 5-on-5. And it doesn't even have to be drafted teams. For leagues, it could be your own made-up teams. It could be a team of Delirium, Zach, Quicks, Specs, Woodland. I don't know what a crazy team would be. But like one crazy team is super, super powerful. And then you have another team that starts to get pretty good. And you build up against it, just playing against each other in leagues and learning off of each other too. We could develop the meta like that. And then the more leagues we do, the better and better they get in a concentrated learning environment. We're kind of dulling. Yeah, we are. You're absolutely right. We're dumbing down the play of any individual public session just to try and get the new players across, just so we can get a win, get the new players up to speed. If we don't have to do that, we can keep them going.
And the other important thing is, I think you can't have a regular without them starting as a new player. Everybody starts as a new player. Nobody is a regular right out the gates, except maybe like the CMP guys coming in because they've played laser tag somewhere else before.
God damn it, Oliver.
So you have to start somewhere, and that somewhere, in an ideal world, should be a boot camp session. I think they need to play against themselves for a certain amount of time before they're able to understand the fundamentals of the game, how to use the gun, how to move around the field, where are the good spots, and then they can move up to public sessions.
I'm afraid that they'll stay there forever. They'll only play in boot camp sessions and only play there forever. And we'll just have like another set of public sessions where there's just a few players that are stuck there. So there has to be a way to graduate them out of it and not let them play in anymore. Is there a level you're thinking, a skill level, a recognizability?
I think there has to be unfortunately, I think it would have to be done by rank. I think once you reach a certain rank, you would have to be taken out of boot camp sessions. Unfortunately, I don't think there's a way to do it skill-wise. Because then there would be like people. Yeah, there'd be people that are stuck in there forever.
Never letting yourself, because if there are just sessions where just a bunch of new players that don't know what they're doing, no one's learning off of each other. And one of the best ways to learn for any competitive sport like this is, well, to watch a new player play well or get your ass kicked. How the hell did my ass get kicked in this session? Where am I getting killed from? What's going on? And asking yourself those questions to progress yourself. And if they are stuck in these boot camp sessions, never get to ask themselves those questions.
I think the purpose should be to have them play those boot camp sessions to learn the field, learn the fundamentals, and then we kick them into the public sessions where they would probably get their ass kicked, but they at least know how to hold the gun. They at least know how to move out of the spawn. They aren't in the way as much. They're looking around and they can recognize where they are going wrong instead of just like throwing their hands up being like, where did I even get killed from this time?
And it doesn't even take much. You'll notice these new players, from the beginning of the session, they know nothing, and by the last team deathmatch, they're starting to get it. They press the button, they don't wait the 3 seconds, they leave. They hold the gun up at least a little bit more. Their gun, they don't know how the selector switch works yet, but it's not on safety. They remember how to reload the gun. They have the basics mostly down. You give them a couple boot camp sessions, they can figure out just a little bit more how to get better each time. But how do we advertise a boot camp session?
Well, that should just be basic like social media posting, and on Barracks it should just say boot camp sessions rank 10 and below. So that way when we have people like Woodland swipe in for it, we can kick him out and not give him a refund because dude did it on purpose.
It's literally written right there. I'm afraid they're going to see the boot camp session and like they're going to ask themselves, why would I join the boot camp session? Because they don't know how high our skill floor is. They're going to ask themselves, why would I even want to join that one? That seems like just a discount thing. We have a better way of explaining it to them.
Well, that's got to be something.
Get good at this. Why would they want to get good at it too? That's
got to be something we do in person. It's not necessarily something we should advertise as to get better as, but it's a public-private party almost, if that makes sense, which it doesn't. It should be at the level of a private party, but accessible to the public. Because we get complaints all the time about all of our regulars destroying all of our players, all our new players, which they are, and it is kind of the new players' fault. It's also kind of not. And they always ask for a way that they can play without regulars.
They do. I think a good path, the desired path for these new players to make would to be to join a public session just randomly. Whatever way they first get introduced to iCombat, be it a private event, random public session they want to play in, whatever the first session is, and they get demolished. And then they look at it and like, man, that was fun, but I got smashed. What's a better way of doing it? And that boot camp session is advertised big in front of their faces, like that's a better way of playing it. Maybe we mention to them at the end of the speech, the new players, if you guys had enjoyed this and you realize you got smashed this game, you didn't have any fun because of it, we do offer boot camp sessions for players with accounts that are X level and below. That way they realize that this can be fun and you won't get smashed in this session as hard unless there's like some other player in there that has like some understanding of it. It'll be a dulled down session they can get more fundamentals with. I can't imagine they're going to start with the bootcamp session. I can imagine they would get in the public one and then move on to it and move out.
And not every player that we play against gets upset by regulars. There are so many players I've played against that think it's cool to play well. But the idea of learning all of it is kind of difficult, especially in sessions where you're just going to get destroyed over and over and over again. There's something to learn from that. However, there's also, you need to get your footing first before you're just getting kicked around. So to those players, it would be really nice to point them in the direction of try this session first. Once you graduate out of these, then come join us again. And then I'll kick you around some more.
Oh, yeah. And I'll kick you around some more. They call, and this is your first time playing, right? You should play in this session instead. Or if you want to make a private event, that's good too. It's basically the same thing. But if you don't have 10 people, and it's just you and your dad you want to play, highly recommend this. This is going to be much better for you. This is going to work out awesome. You're not going to get smashed around. Maybe they do want to get smashed around, like you just said.
Yeah, and there's a point to it that will help the game grow. It will help boost our community if we get those people to go all the way through those ranks and then join us to the public sessions again. We have some potential new regulars that are going to graduate through that. And then that's when we start getting some more, it all kind of ties together for what we were talking about earlier. We get some more unique players out on the field. We get some new tactics that we haven't seen before. They develop something in those boot camp sessions that is foreign to our meta, and they take it over to us, and it works out great. That would be fantastic to see stuff like that develop.
Oh, they totally do too. They develop their own little ecosystem that they play a lot together. Assured Legends group, or Kalen, he has a group that will play pretty consistently and develop their own little ecosystem with their own little meta in it. And when they come out of it, they play so radically different that could very easily influence our meta, and we can add some things, subtract some things to his play style that could make it better, make our play better. Kalen has this thing where he still plays on auto, but he's very, very, very accurate for a new player. He'll walk away around in a very particular way, and it makes his play like not like anyone else I've seen. Everyone's kind of like crushed by the meta or society that we've created in our own little ecosystem of public sessions, where he wasn't as much. He bounced off of his own friends and had to counter his own friends and made his own little way of playing to fight them. And when he played in the tournament, he played in a very particular way. I'm sure some of you guys saw. Wow, Assured Legend, you're pretty good. You're pretty good for not playing in a public session more than 5 times. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, Kalen's a perfect example of that, of exactly developing as a player outside of public sessions and then stepping into the public sessions and doing okay. Not getting destroyed, but able to kind of hold his own because he has those fundamentals and brings something new to the game.
Yeah, he didn't get destroyed. He didn't like if you walk out of the session afterwards and you looked in the lobby and the thing, you can see those players, like everyone's at the top, like in the top 8 players is the top 8 regulars, and everyone like the 8th person has like 75 kills or something, and jumping down to the next spot, it's like 30, 15, 7, 7, 4, 2, 2, 0, 0, 0. So like, oh, you got 0 kills? What do you mean? Kalen got to skip that whole step. Kalen jumped right from 0 kills, jumped right up to like the 6th or 7th or 8th spot in the session, and still has fun with it.
Yeah, unfortunately, we haven't seen him in a little while, so hopefully he comes back
I foresee it'll be soon.
Hopefully we get another Kalen private party. That's something I really want to see more of. Is Kalen private parties, boot camp sessions, players joining from a warped meta, from something that isn't what we play.
Yeah, we were just talking about creating our own meta from
and
we
got that from like the CMP guys too. Oliver and Luis joined, and they play differently than everybody else. Who'd have guessed it?
There was I have this clip where Woodland was like, "How does Specs hold his gun? Why does he hold his gun like that?" And he tried. He was like, "Oh, there's so much stability," and he's like moving his head up and down, holding the gun. I was like, "Wherever I look, the gun goes." Wow, Oliver, I'm learning. It's really funny. You can just learn, for example, how Oliver holds his gun in a very particular way. You can learn just from that, for example. He also plays very conservatively from what I've seen from his footage so far. I'm currently editing his video if I haven't spoiled it enough. He plays in a very particular way, and he doesn't play as passive, but he will be very conscious of where he's exposing himself and where to look when exposing himself. He's not going to take many risks, and it shows, right? He'll get in like the top 3 of most sessions he plays in.
One of the things I noticed when those two first started playing, it's kind of a small thing, but I thought it was really funny how every single time a game starts, when Oliver and Luis first started playing, they went into lower market every single round, both of them. It didn't matter if they were on the same team or not, both of them just automatically gravitated toward that lower market, which I don't know if it's because that lower market's similar to how their field layout was. I never got to play at CMP, so I don't really know what it was, but
it's something about natural habitat.
Yeah, something about that place just drew those two into it, which I thought was just really interesting. We got plenty of lower market players, so it's not like it was the most unique thing out there, but besides that, like the way they hold their gun, Luis like jumping up and down for some reason.
He does his running jump shot he do for people. It just styles on every time he kills them. I wonder how the Chicago players did. When the Chicago players first started playing, where did you see, if you saw it, where did you see that they started to gravitate towards immediately? Did you see that for everyone?
Oh yeah,
or
they would gravitate toward the street and the ghetto alley, and they would mag dump, which is fine. I say more power to them. Of course, they were yelled at and screamed at by all the walk shot regulars, like, what do you mean your accuracy is below 20%? That's ridiculous.
How dare you?
As if that matters.
Like, just this, like, that's a great example how we've seen the meta develop just like that. These players come in, they stir it up, and now no one really cares. Except for a few choice people, no one really cares about accuracy anymore. It's like, you win. I killed you. You died, right? You died. It doesn't matter.
There's a few stragglers that are still like super care about it. Like Ashaway, I think is a different story because I think she like wanting to have the highest accuracy is like a personal goal rather than like an elitist. You need to have accuracy that is high. No, I think totally there's very few people that actually still think you need to have a high accuracy. Watsons.
I'm playing. I mean, it works for them, right? Like I'd say they're all really good players, and it shows. But I think if they were to shoot their gun a little bit more, they could be a little bit better. Just develop it, right? Bounce off the meta. They're gonna hate me for that sentence later. I'm gonna get crucified.
I know, like, what do you mean I should lower my accuracy?
Yeah, Ashaway can totally play on burst. She's not an elitist like that. She has the account Ashaway with an extra Y, I think, where she just plays on auto, and she played on that one for the tournament. She can do it. She does it. That's her specialty, though. Is semi-automatic. Dink, dink, dink. I'm not missing any bullets. And also, it really shows. I was playing against her in like games like Borg or Black Hawk Down, and when she was a freaking Ranger or a Borg, I just couldn't do anything against her. She just it explodes me every single time. If she has the first shot of me every single time, man, dude, I don't know what to do. She kills me every single time. Crazy, really.
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate that especially when I started playing in the era of like Qui-Gon Jinn, Marco, Chris, those guys being there all the time, they were generally kind of a toxic group. And when we had people that were playing differently than the way we played, we didn't exactly cater to them in any sense. We were rude, to say the least. And I think it's really cool to step away from that viewpoint.
Yeah, let the meta be influenced, man. They'll come in and they'll change it. I don't like the idea of gatekeeping our own little group, dude. And we're doing a really good job of doing it so far. I'm just going to keep preaching it from the rooftops. Let them come in, let them play, let them show you what they can do. And don't be mean. Well, unless you're trying to be the villain. I guess be mean, but be cool about being mean. I don't know, man. I don't know.
All right. I think if you're up to it, I think we can move on to our 7-day leaderboard.
Yeah, of course.
All right, so let's see how the leaderboard looks for this week. Taking it down from the top, we have in our number 1 place, we have Woodland himself. Down to number 2, we have Sniper17, Gamoto, Ashaway, Specs, Glue Eater, Skull Taker making it in at number 7, Quicks, Scumbag Lenny, Chief, Stribling, Milkman, Nate, Dummy, and Aravan. Not an incredibly interesting week. We've got some very familiar faces returning.
Mm-hmm. Generally, our core group of players kind of pushing their way up to the top here. Can get those points in, but we do see one big recent development that I'm noticing here. Can anyone spot it? Looking around number 13 here.
There he is.
Nate, congratulations. You have made your first star. He is out of the Eagles now. He breached all the way through, and he has only 4 more ranks to go. He's out. He's free. We have a 1-star Big Nate. He's here.
Yep, General Nate is real.
It's so cool. I mean, also, so he isn't on the list this week, but Mini Keith J also made his way into the Eagles this week. So he's no longer like one of the major ranks now. He has his first Eagle. It's Eagle 0, and he's going to start pushing his way through those soon.
Yeah, and we're also like at Ashaway, Eagle 49, 2 levels away from her first star. Chief, Eagle 44 is going to be coming up soon. Milkman, Eagle 39. Skull Taker and Quicks, both in their mid-30s. So we've got some players that are going to be right on the cusp of their first star pretty soon here.
Yeah, all these new players started playing generally around the same time, and it shows. A lot of them looks like we're going to have like maybe a month or 2 of just like new star, new star, new star, new star, and it's going to be awesome.
I remember Quicks at one point telling me when he worked at iCombat that he would never get his star, that he didn't want it at all, that he didn't want to play that much. Look at you, idiot. You're going to get it.
He's ranked 34. Yeah. Looking at some of the changes from there, obviously I was kicked off at the bottom. Aravan taking my spot. JV, actually, let's start from the top. So last week we had DeSeal in first place, Woodland taking his spot. Sniper17 still in second place from last week. Quicks has dropped down from 3rd down to 8th. Gamoto changed spots. Gamoto's up to 3rd now. Dummy, you moved down. I think I'm looking for you.
He did.
Yep, Dummy, you moved down. You moved down to 14th. You were in 5th place.
Oh,
come on,
so
buddy.
good.
Look at him go. Woodland's down from 1st place to 6th. He's up to 1st from 6th place from last week. Glue Eater, looks like he's in the same place. Nope, he moved down. He moved up 1 spot. He's up into 6th place. He was 7th last week. Stribling's on it as well. Stribling went from 8th to 11th. Poor Stribling. He's still on the list, though. That's 2 weeks in a row of being on the list. Shay Money, is she even on this list this week?
Nope, not on the list this week.
Last week she was 9th, and she got her Eagle last week as a reminder. Ashaway's still on the list, pushing her way up to 4th from 10th. Ryan is kicked off the list. Poor Ryan. Scumbag Lenny has moved up to 9th. Junior is gone. Poor Junior. Vito on here? No Vito. Yeah, and I was kicked off as well. Yeah, some changes. New faces, but generally it's just the core crowd. Good job, Aravan, for 36 kill streak in 15th place.
All right, everybody, I do believe that brings us to the end of episode 6 of the Point Gremlin podcast. Thanks for everybody for tuning in today. We hope to see a lot of your faces this weekend as we are open tomorrow. So hopefully a lot of you guys come on down tomorrow. I know I'll be there. James, you're there as well, I believe.
Mm-hmm. do please ask us any questions you want to add to the podcast. We can answer them live on air around this section. You can ask either me or Alex that. As well, if you guys want to go ahead and scroll down, we added some new links down there. We have a link to the Point Gremlins podcast Discord server, which I see a couple of you guys already joined. Looking at Yukamoto, thanks. Go ahead and join it. We're going to be in here posting some of the show notes and some general bits, and I'll show you guys my editing process when making the videos and stuff. If you guys want to add some things and give any feedback on the podcast, feel free to toss it in there as well. Otherwise, I'll see you guys next week. Try and do something new this week.
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody, for joining in this week.
Later, guys.
Ready? Oh, I got it. Oh, no,